doing the low poly model, you also should be done with UVs. You also should have designated your hard and soft edges on your model. So let's just take a look at mine. Right now, I'm going to hide the base. So again, this could have been done a little bit more effectively if I wanted to. I could collapse this edge and save another 16 tries on both sides, and then just move those over. Those could be collapsed.
Right. So what happens to your UV if you start having an edge after you've already?
Well, let's see what happens. So that looks fine there. Nothing really changed, but obviously I need to bring this back. By doing so, you can see this has been stretched, right? So you can see that stretched a little bit. It'll probably be pretty evident if I do this side too. So if I did go and do that, you can see how this is a little weird right here, right?
How would you fix that?
Well, say I did do that, I would just come over to my UV editor and find this and just this is a pretty easy fix because I just need, you can see these are sucked in, right? I could just select this edge here, and then I'm going to select one point here, okay? And then I'm going to say align all these to the max value, which will push all of these at UVs to the right. So that should look about right. And I'm going to grab these ones over here, and I'm going to push these all to the left. If we go back over here now, it should be, I mean, that was a pretty easy fix. So, sometimes, you're going to have to go and the short answer is, if you do change any of your models topology after the UVs, most likely you're going to have to go back and tweak those UVs. If I took this and I just deleted, say I took this edge and deleted it, I don't need to change anything because I didn't change anything that was along the border edge. Okay? If you don't manipulate any geo that's not on the border, it's not going to do anything. I could come in here and add a new edge loop, and that's not going to change anything. It'll just put it in. You see that? But it didn't change any of the border edge stuff. I can come in here and delete that edge, and again, nothing's changed. If I went over here and say this edge here, that's a border edge. Where's that guy? Say I came over here and decided, hey, I don't like that anymore, and deleted that. You can see that. Look at how crazy now it starts to get crazy, right? Because you don't ever want to delete an edge that's a border edge in 2D space, or you're going to have to drastically touch things up. Okay. So, but I did kill a few more tries. I'm going to untexture this just by clicking on there and see my soft and hard edges. I'm also going to do my base. Now, as we click on both of these, I'm going to click on both of these because I intend them to share the same map. And I just want to check my UVs one more time. Again, this is not the most effective use of UV space. Okay, everything was UV'd in this 0 to 1 space. It looks like we have something that needs to be fixed here. You can see that this is exceeding that space right there. If that's the case, it will get texture, but it's going to get whatever's over here because it repeats. I need this to be over. I need this to be inside. Again, this isn't the best UV job ever. I have about 5 times the resolution given to the hinges than the keyboard, right? Because look how much more space these take up. And these are really small geo. Again, bad UV space, just to show you that. If anything, the hinges are probably the least important. They should have the least amount of UV space if I'm going to actually scale things for importance. The keyboard probably should have a little bit more if possible. Again, I modeled and textured this thing a while ago. This was the texture map I did, and the texture map that I made was 2K by 1K initially. So I made it an aspect ratio of 2 to 1. So I made everything in UV space from here to here. So I made a 2 to 1 aspect ratio of the UVs, which allows you better spacing for these rectangular objects. And then once I was done, I just selected everything, shrunk it all down, and then moved it over to the 1 to 1 space. And then when I baked my maps, I baked them out at 2 to 1. Okay, I didn't bake it out at 2K by 2K. I baked it out by 2 by 1K. Okay. So I was able to pack, you can see if you look in here, I also did the CD drive, so I was able to pack everything in here really, really, really tight. Okay. In here, just mess around, make sure that you give yourself even spacing, and make sure everything's good to go. Yes?
It's not like sewing the edges together.
The sewing the edges?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the rules with sewing the edges?
Move and sew.
Move and sew, right? Okay, so should I ever sew a hard edge in UV space? I don't think so, right?
If you want to move it to the corner it's connected to, you just cut it away.
Yeah, and you got it, and you can't have it right next to it, right? You got to give it some space. Okay. What about soft edges? Do you have to sew all the soft edges together? Anybody?
I did.
Okay, but do you have to always? No, you don't. Okay, some prime examples are characters or anything organic. Probably everything soft. You don't have to always sew them together. I mean, it's obviously at a point it's impossible. Yes.
I noticed on your model you have a soft edge on this corner of here.
Maybe I should go fix that.
Oh, I mean, like, should we have that soft edge?
Maybe it's a mistake we need to fix.
Oh.
We'll check that out. So, so hard edges, always rule, hard edge, always UV edge. Okay, if it's a hard edge. If you're in it, so does anyone remember why you can't sew a hard edge together in UV space?
No. Why?
Yeah, it won't be a border edge in 2D space, right? So what happens when you make something a hard edge?
It harder.
They don't share normal.
They don't share normals, right? They're given different lighting information, different colorization to dictate lighting based on the normal angle, right? Because you have essentially one saying, hey, this is facing this way, one that's facing whatever way, right? And at that edge, there are going to be two different colors. And if it's a border edge, it's essentially going to try to, and if you sewed them together at that edge, it's going to try to blend the colors together when really they're distinctly two separate colors. Okay, and essentially that leads to artifacting along that edge. Okay.
So should all non-border edges be soft edges?
They can be. They can't. Yeah, all non-border edges should be soft. Yes. Yeah. So anything that's in here in the center, I'm not saying mine's perfect. There's probably things that need to be fixed up. Like I think this is a hard edge? I think so, right? So this is a hard edge. So this needs to be cut. We can cut that and move this down a little bit. Okay? Well, so let's just troubleshoot this and just make sure everything's fine. Make sure nothing is. See, here we got something overlapping. Now that I moved that, that would be a problem, right? If it's overlapping like that, they're going to share the same texture space. it's not that you can't ever share texture space. Like I could share texture space where the hinges are essentially the same. Okay? If you want to share texture space, you only export one of them. You don't export both, and you only bake one of them. If you export both of them, it's in a double bake on top of itself. So it's going to get twice the information and ruin it. So, so if you have anything that repeats itself, only do one. Then dupe it after it's baked, or replace it. Okay. But only bake one of the objects. You don't need to stack it exponentially during the baking process. Okay, so it looks like nothing's touching. It looks like we have enough space in between everything where things will have a little bit of bleed off or filler. Okay, I'm going to call that good.